I'm more curious about how you might handle talking with someone about these wrongs that have happened in the past. Like, how do you actually navigate when someone goes, I don't want to be a Christian because there's just been so many, there's like the Crusades, there's so much violence in the name of Christianity in the past. And I kind of want to hone in on a few little topics, if that's okay. But how would you navigate that if someone's kind of talking to you about that?
Yeah, I think when someone criticizes you, like either you personally or like a group that you belong to and identify with, our knee-jerk human reaction is a defensive one, like to kind of go, oh, no, you're wrong, or like, to explain like, oh, it's not really like that, or to like offer a different kind of narrative against that. And I want to say that actually Christians of all people should be able to do something different from that. Christians are people who, we're not Christians because we're good. We're Christians because we know that we're not good and that we can't be good on our own. Like we need God's help. We need his grace and his forgiveness. And we're people who go to church every week and we confess that we've messed up and that we are messed up. So it should be not that hard. It should be kind of a habit for us to be able to go, actually, like, you know what? You're so right. Like there's so much crap there that Christians have done in the past. So I think with the violence, like, and often people don't know the history that well, right? No. And it's good to know it and to be able to have a conversation at some point about like, oh, well, okay, let's talk about how complex the Crusades or the Inquisitions or whatever are. But we don't have to like defend everything Christians have ever done or people claiming to be Christians have ever done. We can be like, that was really awful and it upsets me as well. And I think if we can respond that way and kind of agreeing with them and being like, really sucks. I think that opens up a conversation that isn't defensive and isn't kind of aggro. For sure. And that's quite helpful. So I think where we want to get to, like the thing that we say in the documentary, our kind of big, like, governing idea is that, we don't want to be like, oh, Christians did bad things, but they weren't real Christians, or, Christians did bad things, but also they did these good things, and so it doesn't matter about the bad things. We don't want to say those. Those aren't true. What we do want to say is you go back to Jesus. He's the guy at the start of it all. He's the one that Christians claim to follow. And we use this metaphor of like a composition, like a musical composition. Something like, Bach wrote these cello suites, which are kind of, a lot of people think are kind of the most beautiful piece ever written. And we have a guy playing it, on the cello and playing it beautifully. And then, my colleague John, who has loved this music for a long time, but doesn't he's a musician, but he doesn't play the cello. He'd had one cello lesson and then he tries playing them, right? And actually he's not that bad, but he's not great, right? And it's a bit like, actually that doesn't change the cello suites. Like we know how to tell the difference between a good performance and a terrible performance of the same composition, and that you don't judge a composition by its worst performance. You judge it by its best one. So we think that Jesus wrote this beautiful tune. So on violence, you have he talks about turning the other cheek, about loving your enemies, about doing good to those who do harm to you. He wrote this beautiful tune, and when Christians have listened to him and have kind of played in tune, that's actually done these amazing things in our history. When they've played out of tune, that's been horrific and discordant. But actually we want to point to the tune and go, okay, go back and measure all the history, recent and far away, against what Jesus has to say, because he's the one that matters. And we think that his tune is like the most beautiful one ever written.